Hi my loves, I'm Anita Manager and welcome back to another episode of Sip and Simmer. We all may have our concerns and worries in life, but during the next 30 minutes, you're mine. We're here to have a snack, a drink, and a good time. Okay, so before I go on, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in and being patient with me while I nursed my back. I am feeling quite a bit better. Actually wearing a corset today is making it feel better, so we all have our positives today. Before I continue with the rest of the regularly scheduled program, since we did not have the episode on Sunday, I would like to pick the winner of the Anita Manager t-shirt from last week's contest. These people all liked and shared all 3 videos from the previous week. So I'm going to mix them up, make sure they're not stuck together. And now I'm gonna pick. All right. And they all got stuck together again. All right. So the winner is Adrian. So, Adrian, if you're watching, you have 24 hours to send me a message on Facebook, and I will get your t-shirt out to you. If I don't hear from Adrian by Thursday, I will pick a new winner. So, Adrian, congratulations. I'm excited. And sorry, that's a really heavy bowl. And to everybody else who's won t-shirts, and if you got them already, I would love it if you guys could take a picture and post it on my Facebook and let me see, because who doesn't like to look at themselves, right? Okay. So, if you would like to contribute to the production of Sip and Simmer, my Venmo is Mrs. Anita Manager, and all the proceeds do go to all the drinks and the snacks that we make here together. Tonight we do have Sienna Rose joining us again, but before we go on, I need a minute. Today I want to talk to you guys about the weather and how beautiful it's been. I know it sounds silly, but hear me out. The pandemic started and it was getting a lot of attention in January. By February there were major changes, and by the end of March we were basically on lockdown. Since then, things have gotten really crazy, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but it's also important to remember that while it's been happening, a lot of us were in the middle of our seasonal depression, dealing with the cold, the snow, the rain, those random hot days, and then it got cold again. Anyway, I digress. Look at the way that things are today. The pandemic is still going strong, and people are still dealing with it in all sorts of ways. In fact, if you lined up all of the people who believed it was a government hoax, or the protesters, or people trying to convince each other that it's a little bit of socializing is okay, and the depression most of us are feeling, you have the first four parts of the 5 stages of guilt. And grief is a good word for all of the opportunities, plans, jobs, and people that have been lost so far. What comes next? Acceptance. The reality is that no matter how many times we click our heels together, we're going to deal with this, and this is our new normal. The world is settling into this new normal, at least for the next while, and the silver lining here is that one thing has improved during all of this, and that's the weather. I tried to enjoy the weather a little bit too much a few weeks ago and hurt my back, but we're getting better, aren't we? We're finally in May, and while there's still some rain, it's a pretty much gorgeous day every day. And that means that there's a lot more opportunities to improve our day-to-day routines. You know, I'm not saying that we should start throwing block parties and playing contact sports or anything. I never suggest a contact sport, to be honest with you. But there's loads of ways for each of us to enjoy the weather alone or together safely. If you're as lucky as I am and you have a yard, you can spend some time out sunbathing. Sienna may have spent a little bit too much time sunbathing, and this is what her back looks like. You can set up an umbrella to a lawn chair and read if you don't want to sit in the sun, or you can enjoy some time on your phone. If you have a balcony in your apartment, you can do the same thing, but just smaller. And if you don't have either, even just sitting by an open window and letting the sun and the cool breeze can lift your spirits. We don't know if businesses for things like kayaking, outdoor exercise classes, outdoor seatings at restaurants will open up anytime soon, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to do. Plus, being by ourselves like this is the perfect chance for each of us to try new things that we've been too busy or too embarrassed to try. Look at me, I'm changing my makeup almost every episode. Learn to do a handstand, or try to do a handstand. You can risk trying to get a tan without fear of sunburn keeping you out of work for a day, or you can have a one-person karaoke party. Letting the sunshine in feels good even in a normal year. It takes away the cold, the dark, the dank, and some of the sadness from winter. So let it do the same thing now, and it'll just feel even that much more better. As hopeless as it can feel in the cold and the dark, it's nothing that a little warm sun, a cool breeze can't get us through. Now, I have been enjoying plenty of time outside. Today I did some gardening. I set up a whole new vegetable garden. I did some weeding in my flower beds. I enjoyed my beautiful patio. I've been living my life outside. The moment that I could put shorts on and go outside, that was it. I was not having it. So, let's move on. Today we are going to be making an old-fashioned. We are also going to be making gnocchi and a brown butter sage sauce. So it is pasta week, so it is going to be a really quick meal that you can make at home. And I really enjoy making pasta at home because it's really fresh. It's actually very simple to make pasta, and you can do it very quickly, and you can show off to your friends. When I'm making pasta at home, I like to make sure that it looks irregular and it looks homemade, so that way people mention it, because then you have proof that you're like, no, I made it myself. Okay, so for our drinks today, we have Old Fashioned. Okay, so for the Old Fashioned, I don't know if you saw Kathy's Corner, you need whiskey, simple syrup, bitters, and orange peel. If you don't have orange peel, what you can do is what I'm doing tonight, and I'm going to be using triple sec. And I just found out we have a little bit of bad news. Sienna will not be joining us this evening, so the cocktail glass is going to go to the side, and you guys are stuck with me for the evening. Sienna had a little mishap, but she is fine. Everything is good, but she won't be joining us on the show tonight, but I am for damn sure that she will be enjoying this pasta. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to drop a little bit of ice on the cup, and I mean like a little bit, like 2-3 pieces. I'm going to put in a splash of triple sec. I'm going to put in a splash of simple syrup, and then I'm going to stir that together. And then I'm going to put in a little bit more ice, like 2 or 3 more. And then I'm going to put in the bitters. I'm going to put in like 3 or 4 dashes. I'm going to pour in some bourbon, and I love me some bourbon, so I'm going to do a little bit extra. And then I'm going to give it a stir, make a mess everywhere, drop in 1 or 2 more ice cubes, and a cherry for a garnish. Now, if you don't have a cherry, that's fine. 9 times out of 10, I don't do a garnish, but we have cherries in the refrigerator, so I'm going to share my cherries with you. So, I'm going to give this a little taste. Okay. A little strong. A little bit more simple syrup to that. Don't tell Aaron that I'm doing it out of order. My little mixologist. Breathing a little bit of fire there. Okay, so much better. Okay, so tonight for our gnocchi, it's going to be super, super simple. Again, I'm going to use one of my kitchen gadgets. If you don't have a food processor, get one. I mean, it's that simple. You really want a food processor for your kitchen. You do so many things with them. If you don't have them, you could use a potato masher, you could use a fork, whatever, but it's not going to be as smooth, and you really want the gnocchi to be very smooth, so that way it has a good texture. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 4 medium-sized russet potatoes, and the type of potato makes a difference. When you're making mashed potatoes, you want to use golden Yukon potatoes because they're super buttery and like smooth and delicious. Russet potatoes are like more rustic and like they've got a little bit more bite to them. And they hold a lot more starch, so it's going to be better to hold the gnocchi together when you are making the dough for it. I am going to cheat because I have long nails, and as you all know, I don't like stuff under my nails, and I'm not going to put my back to you to wash my hands. So I'm going to show you how to make it, And then we're gonna skip over it because I'm not touching the dough because it is super tacky. You need a cup and a half of flour, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, 1 egg, and those 4 potatoes. So what you're gonna do with those 4 potatoes is you're gonna dice them, you're gonna boil them for 15 minutes. You wanna make sure that when you touch them with a fork, they fall apart. I don't mean tender, I mean actually like almost mush. You're gonna take it, you're gonna throw it through your strainer, you're gonna let them sit for like 5-10 minutes because you don't wanna burn yourself. So in our food processor, we are going to put our cup and a half of flour, our teaspoon of salt, and our teaspoon of pepper. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pulse it just to mix up our ingredients. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab our diced and partially cooled potatoes, and I'm just gonna throw them all in. Now, at this point, if you were doing this by hand, what you would do is you would just take a bowl. Try doing that in the reflection. You would just take a bowl, you would mash up your potatoes, and then you would put your salt, pepper, and flour on top of it. But I'm telling you, get a food processor. You can get a cheap one, Bed Bath & Beyond. Use a 20% off coupon that's been sitting in your drawer forever, because I use my food processor at least 3 or 4 times a week. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn this on, and it is going to come together. It's together. Alright, so when it's done, it is going to be a sticky mess. You're gonna end up adding another cup of flour to it, massaging it on the counter. It's kind of like kneading dough, but not, because you're not really like kneading it, you're just trying to mix more flour in. And once it's less tacky, like me, you are going to roll it into long strips and you're gonna cut them. I've seen a whole bunch of videos on like Tasty and 5-minute whatever, and you can just roll it on a fork. If you can do that, can you please send me a video? Because I tried it for about 45 minutes today and it was not happening. I have little balls of mess and they're gonna be delicious. They're just not gonna be that pretty. Okay, so I have my gnocchi prepped here. And this is what I was talking about. Like, this is one of my sad attempts of putting it on, rolling it down the fork. I mean, it just looks like a dead caterpillar. It's not cute. But I also made a mistake. I piled them all together after I cut them. And when they're wet still, they kind of reform into a ball, and I didn't have time to cut them back up. So then I just smashed them into little balls, and they're gonna be delicious. All right, so that, honest to God, aside from trying to roll it on the fork, took me about 10 minutes. So while you're letting your water boil, instead of opening that box of pasta, you can do this at home. So for the gnocchi, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put them in like a handful at a time. And you'll know that they're done, even if they're different sizes, because they're gonna float. So, I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. And I could literally just keep on plopping them in because they all cook at different speeds. So the smaller ones obviously are gonna float first. And then the bigger ones are just gonna take a little bit more time. You don't wanna overcrowd the pot because then they're gonna start to stick together. So just keep an eye on where you're dropping them. Okay. So I've got a good amount, ooh, that one stuck me, in the pot. And now we're gonna start our brown butter sauce. This is literally like a 15-minute dinner. It is so easy. Which is good because I'm drinking and I haven't eaten anything yet. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, while I keep an eye on the pot, I'm going to get a pan and I'm going to turn it on. Before I even put anything in the pan, I'm gonna let it get super hot. A lot of people rush into cooking and they don't let their stuff finish getting ready before they start using it. Pots and pans really should be hot when you go to use them. Obviously not for boiled water or something, but like anytime you put meat or vegetables or anything into a pan, you want to make sure that the pan is like super, 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 super hot. When you put that butter, when you put that oil, when you put that steak, when you put anything in the pan, it should really sizzle. Like it should be very audible. Yeah, that's my little tidbit of information. That's all I got for you. Okay, so now I made sure to remove all the flammable towels from underneath the boards. I'm letting my pan get nice and hot. I am checking on the gnocchi, and they're just about done, which is super nice because this is going to be our dinner tonight, and we are going to enjoy them so much. If you don't eat gluten, or if you're allergic to gluten, I've made this with gluten-free flour before, and it comes out identical. So if you are like one of my daughters and you are gluten-free by choice or not, it's not a choice. It comes out very similar. So I would like to welcome Adrian to the chat room. Welcome back to 1997, where I call this a chat room. Adrian is our winner of the Anita Manager t-shirt, so congratulations to Adrian. So my gnocchi are starting to float. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna put them directly into the pan yet. I'm gonna let them cool down a little bit, so that way I can get my sauce going. Ooh, you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that. That sizzle, that means she's ready. Okay, so in our pan, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some butter. I don't like to measure this because it depends on how much gnocchi you're putting into the pan. But you wanna put the butter in, and it should turn brown relatively quickly. And then you're gonna throw in a few pieces of sage. And then I'm gonna throw in the same amount of butter again. And then I'm gonna turn it down. The second that it starts to smoke, that means that you are just about where you want it. A brown butter sauce is super, super, super simple to make. And when you order it at a restaurant, like it's just always so pretty and delicious. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start to add the gnocchi to the brown butter and the sage. And that's literally the whole dish. So like I said, I turned down the pan as soon as the butter started to brown. And that's it. You're gonna let the gnocchi get a little bit more brown from the heat of the pan and the brown butter. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but they are so irregular, and it is so obvious that they're homemade, that when people come over and you make this for them, they're gonna be like, oh my God, you made this for me? And you're gonna say yes, and they're gonna be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it took you no work, and they're gonna feel super special, and you're gonna feel good for making them feel special, but you really didn't do that much. All right, so if I could have a little assistance, can somebody give me a serving dish, please? So you're not going to want to really eat the sage. The sage is more there for the aromatic flavors of it. But when I'm serving this, I do like to leave the sage with the gnocchi because it makes it like a little bit of a garnish. But also as it cools down, the sage does release a little bit more flavor. So that's pretty much it for a gnocchi and a brown butter and sage sauce. Of course, there are those of us who like to cover all of our pasta in handfuls and handfuls and handfuls of Parmesan cheese, and that's okay, because this is such a simple sauce that Parmesan is going to add a little bit of salt, it's going to add a little bit of texture, it's going to add a little bit more creaminess, even though gnocchi is super creamy. But this is like the perfect dish to have like handfuls of Parmesan on. But that is my special gnocchi dish. Alright guys, so I'd like to thank all of you for watching. My Venmo one more time is Mrs. Anita Manager, and all the proceeds do go to all of the drinks and the snacks that we have here together. And that's about it. I want to thank you all again for being so patient with me and my back, because I'm feeling so much better, and I very much appreciate not standing on this hard stone floor and cooking for you on Sunday while I missed you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Have a great night, and don't forget, I'm Anita Manager and you're amazing.